All right, welcome to Witchpolice Radio. As many of you know, whenever I'm sort of putting together my schedule of guests for a period of time, whether it's the spring or the summer, or a few months in a row, I often ask people on social media who they'd like to hear on the podcast. And a lot of the time, I get sort of the same names over and over again. A lot of them are kind of famous people that are way out of my reach as a local DIY Winnipeg podcast. But there's a lot of really cool local artists that I've connected with through that process. A lot of people have really good suggestions, and they're people that maybe I'm not that familiar with, or maybe I am. But the guest on this episode is someone who's been requested over and over again by people whose taste in music I really respect. So, I mean, I have definitely heard some of his stuff myself, but I think that those kind of cosigns from a lot of people who have been past guests and who make really great music in the city too has really helped kind of encourage me to make this happen. So I'm really glad to have you on the show. And I think that the best way to start this off officially is if you want to just introduce yourself and maybe give a bit of background about where you're coming from musically.
Sure. Happy to be here, and a nod to all those people who mentioned my name. That's much appreciated. My name is Jamie Buckboro, and I've been singing for my entire life and playing guitar since 20, and really playing out and about in bands and sort of taking a crack at it since around the same time, 20 years old.
Okay.
Playing bands such as the Honeysliders and Jivetown, and the Pale Riders as well. And then there's some bunch of offshoots, but we'll leave those alone for now.
Sure. Well, and the Honeysliders is where I'm familiar with your music. I mean, I have that record. I've heard that band for sure. And I think the first thing I wanted to ask you about, which is sort of illustrated here, I'm looking at you on the screen. You have a psychedelic poster in the background that says "fucking magical." You're wearing a McLean and McLean shirt with 1972 on it. Obviously, your sound is kind of a throwback to a previous era. I mean, I guess you'd say like late 60s, early 70s kind of vibes. The band is clearly an influence. Neil Young is clearly in there. Where does all that come from? Like, is that the kind of music that you grew up listening to?
Yeah, I mean, like growing up, my old man was a folk singer, and my mom as well. So I grew up, a bunch of my aunties and my mother were all singers at church, and my dad played guitar. So I would listen to them all day. A lot of James Taylor, a lot of Carole King, and basically when I got my this big room in this house finally, and I got to make it into basically a giant living room for my own self.
Yeah.
I stole my dad's record player, and started rifling through his records, and I would get the stuff that I knew, and then I would sort of learn new stuff, and then rifle through his records again, and then find new gems every time, and I would just eventually I took this whole stash. and yeah, I was sucked in by all those classic rock things, watching the old Woodstock movies.
Yeah,
it's just ingrained in me. Love that.
What do you think it is about that era that still resonates? Because I mean, like it's so long ago now. I mean, like Woodstock, for example, that's 69. It's ages. That's like a lifetime ago. For a lot of people. So, why do you think it still works? Like, what is it that in 2021 a guy in Winnipeg can get from those records and from some of those artists and still find inspiration and influence, whereas a lot of stuff from even more recently maybe doesn't have the same impact?
Mm-hmm. I find that it's just the sort of there's no hiding behind that music. Like, that's just straight up actual raw talent that that just came out right there and then. Plus, just the sort of dream-like aspect of that time, of how everything just hit in a big way, and just dreaming one day it'll come back.
Yeah.
Seems unlikely, but a man can.
You never know. It could happen,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Do you think that you're kind of looking at it? I mean, you must be sort of looking at it from an idealized point of view as well, right? Because obviously you weren't around then, and you certainly weren't playing music then. So, do you think? Like, it sounds like what you're saying is part of it is just the idea of that era, the 70s or the 60s, and what kind of I guess the popular perception is, right? I mean, of what all those bands went through and what scenes they came from and what inspired those records.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, granted, grass is always greener. Like, the more I hear about those times, it sounded like a goddamn nightmare.
Yeah.
You only see the good stuff when they're showing it to you. But absolutely, it looked. I kind of like to imagine that I would flourish.
Yeah.
In those times.
Well, I guess, and I mean, many of the artists you mentioned already too, and that kind of era in general, it seemed very welcoming for marrying folk and country and blues and kind of early rock and roll, mixing with all that, and then becoming this new thing. And that's clearly what your sound has, all of those elements in it. Where do you think that you fit in within Winnipeg's music scene? Because I mean, there's definitely a strong folk scene here in Winnipeg. There's a very strong country scene throughout the province. I mean, there's rock bands playing everywhere when there's not a pandemic happening. Where do you sort of find a place? Do you have sort of a little micro scene within the larger music community that fits what it is that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I got my start over at the Royal George in Transcona. That's my old stomping grounds. That's where I grew up. Cut my teeth on that stage. So the scene sort of started there for me, and then it sort of trickled up La Jamodier, up to Provence, and then I did a lot of stuff at Le Garage, and then sort of got my way up to the Times Change, and that's really like where we thrive as
Yeah,
the for sure, as the Honeysliders. That's our spot for sure.
that makes absolute sense. Just based on the type of stuff that they have there. Do you This is something I used to ask people this every single time I did an episode, and I kind of got sick of myself asking it, so I stopped for a few years. But one of the things that I like about not just Manitoba music, but prairie music in general, is that there seems to be a very definite sense of place in those songs. Whether it's a rap song, whether it's a country song, whether it's a hip hop song, I said hip hop twice, but a blues song, a punk song, a hardcore song, whatever. It seems like there's something that speaks comes across as very Winnipeg, very Manitoba about it. I feel that in your stuff too. It's got a prairie vibe to it. I mean, the part of it is the vocals and the I guess the prairie accent coming through. But what do you think it is? Do you think that there's a Manitoba sound or a prairie sound that maybe subconsciously everyone's kind of tapping into?
Yeah, I would say so. I think there's definitely little sprinkles of all the local music that comes through, and everyone's got just a little taste of each other's stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of rooting around there, and we're all watching each other, so everyone, you can't help but just kind of go, I like that, I might just a piece of that, and oh, that one's nice too.
Yeah, you're just a sponge, right? You're just absorbing.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And I always wonder about that because it seems like I feel like Winnipeg too, being within the music community, everyone's kind of, it's so incestuous. Everyone's in each other's bands. Everyone has each other's records. Everyone knows each other. I often wonder if maybe we have this, we think very highly of our own community that maybe outside of Winnipeg and outside of Manitoba, people don't have the same vibe for it. Like I think it's a very homegrown, tight knit sort of thing here, and I always like hearing music that sounds like the prairies, whatever that means. I mean, I think that my perception of what sounds like the prairies might be different from yours, might be different from the next guys, but that's something with the Honeysliders, that EP there is, it definitely sounds prairies to me. So whatever that is, you managed to to pull it off. I think.
Appreciate it.
Is I think I saw on the like that when did that record come out? That EP.
I believe that was 2013 or 14.
So it's been quite a while, right?
Yeah, it has been. Yeah.
So I think yesterday maybe that the Honeysliders are on the lineup for the outdoor shows that are happening. The Times Change outdoor shows.
The Blue Note Park. Yeah.
Yeah. So have you been active this entire time, like since back when you made that record until, well, obviously without the pandemic, but until now, or has it been kind of an on and off project?
Yeah, we've been active pretty much straight through. We've all, like, some of us have branched off and done a couple of little things, but for the most part, we've been playing throughout the years, every year since then.
Okay.
Yeah, not a lot of writing as of for the last bit. We kind of hit a snag, but over this, the Times Change released an album of all the locals, or a good chunk of them anyways, that we were lucky enough to be a part of, and that sort of lit a little bit of a match under us, and since then we've been piecing together some ideas and trying to get ready to get back in to maybe make another EP and potentially a full album once this all sort of quells.
Yeah. Well, what has this been like for you? Because I'm assuming you guys haven't had much opportunity to get together at all, really, right?
Yeah. It's, what, for me, I had so much going on. I was playing just about 5 nights a week, sometimes consistently, and so it's been actually kind of nice having a little time off.
Yeah.
Granted, I'm still getting stir crazy, wishing I could play. Don't get me wrong, but just have it like, I've been doing a little camping with my girlfriend and stuff, and having weekends for the first time in almost a decade, wide open to do whatever I like with. Is
Yeah.
kind of freeing and nice.
Has it been? Have you been able to write during this time? Because I feel like a lot of people, it's either one way or the other. They're either completely blocked and haven't done anything creative, or they've like been abundantly creative and have all like 100 songs waiting in the bag to waiting for things to clear out of it.
Yeah, well after that little match started, I I started getting going, and it, just like the recording a piece and then sending it to my the bass player and Micah, and and then he'd take a piece and then send it back to me. And I don't really know this the whole recording aspect of things, and it started, and then it just kind of got like, it'd be nice if you were here. Rather wait till you're here. And so we're kind of just putting that on the, like, we have a good chunk of ideas that are decently put together, and so we're gonna wait on those. And once this sort of opens up and he can be in this room with me, I think that's when we're gonna start actually moving on it.
Cool. Do
Yeah.
you think that once this clears up a bit, you'll be going at playing shows as hard as you were before, or are some aspects of the freedom that you've had, are those going to carry over into the after COVID times?
Yeah, I've been mulling that over for a while. Some days I'm thinking maybe I won't, and most days I'm thinking, hell yeah, I'm getting right back into
Yeah, yeah.
it.
Do you think that I mean, because no one knows what shows are going to look like once things change, whenever that happens to be. Do you I mean, Times Change is a very intimate little venue. I mean, it's an experience to see a live show there for sure. Assuming that we come back and things are a lot more spaced out, where you can't have a packed little room like that. You have to have people, sitting socially distanced. Does that sort of like, do you guys feed off the crowd? I guess is what I'm getting at. Do you kind of need that sort of raucous energy in the room to be able to deliver the way that you normally would? Like, will it be an adjustment if things
I
are?
mean, yeah, for sure. It's kind of depends on your headspace in the day. Some days it's easy to just overlook if it's not, it's not being received. I mean, I've played in so many corners of so many restaurants
Yeah,
to no claps that I'm pretty used to it. And I honestly, at this point, like, that was all I got to do during most of this is getting those solo gigs,
yeah.
and which has been absolutely wonderful. I did a lot of Trans Canada, and did a little at Torque,
Oh, cool.
and but all I've been thinking is just, I can't wait to plug in. I don't care if anyone listens. I just want to plug in with the boys and
Yeah.
just scream into a mic for a couple hours.
Were you doing a lot of those solo shows in the before times too?
Absolutely, yeah.
What's the I guess, like, do you have to use a different part of your brain to write or even to play, when it's just you versus having being plugged in, like you say? Like, is it a different skill set, or do you sort of tap into the same thing you do in both settings?
Yeah, I'd say that I mostly tap into the same thing I do, but I kind of have to take myself out of the room a little more when I'm not getting any feedback from the crowd.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
I kind of just, I shut the eyes and sort of picture a little place of my own where I can, imagine that someone's just sitting there quiet, staring at me and really digging it, so I can dig into the song the way I'd like to.
yeah. When you're doing some of those shows, whether it's at a restaurant or something like that, are there limitations on what you can play? Like, do they expect you to play a certain amount of covers, or are you can you just do whatever you want? Because a lot of those shows are long, right? You're there for
Yeah,
hours of time.
3 hours at
Yeah,
least. Yeah, typically. Yeah, I usually I typically depends how they react. That's I'll give them what they want if they're if they're being polite about it, and if they don't, I'll start bringing out some the sad farmer songs, and
yeah.
and that's what they get.
I like that. I like the description. The sad farmer songs is that like? I mean, I hate asking this question too, because I ask everyone it, and it's hard to do nowadays when everything is so there's so many subgenres of subgenres of subgenres. But how do you define what it is that you do, whether it's solo or whether it's with the Honeysliders? Like, sad farmer songs is a great description. Does that? I mean, do you use that to describe your own music, or how do you sort of go about explaining what it is you do to someone who maybe hasn't heard you
uh,
before?
yeah, I would. I mean, granted, I've never farmed a day in my life,
Right.
but
You got the hat though.
Yeah, absolutely.
That
I've
and the mustache.
I've certainly learned to personify it through song, and it's it's just I've heard. I try to tap into the emotions of the songs that I've heard in the past, and really just embody the that vibe, and yeah, I do my best to emulate that what other people have done,
Okay.
just to kind of get the point across.
Okay. Well, and a lot of people you've mentioned too, they're all very known for storytelling type songs. Like even so someone like Neil Young, the band, especially, or James Taylor. I mean, it's not throwaway pop songs, right? So
Yeah.
how does that influence your own writing? Listening to all these guys who are doing these really really intricate kind of start to finish stories in their music that's not necessarily just three chords and a couple throwaway lines, right?
Yeah, it's intimidating. That's for
Yeah,
damn sure.
yeah,
Trying to live up to those guys, let me tell you, that's why we haven't written stuff in a long time. I'm so hard on myself because that's what I'm trying to live up to, and I've been working on getting over that, and just sort of letting myself do what I do, and not just, you can't expect to be Neil Young or James Taylor. I mean,
yeah.
hell, they got there by just writing and writing and writing, and that's what I got to do too. So that's what I'm trying to push past.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Is there I guess like what's sort of the common thread through all of those artists you're influenced by? Is it the storytelling aspect of the songwriting, or is it more of a a sonic thing?
I think it started as a sonic thing for me. I grew up listening to harmonies with my mom and my aunties,
Hmm.
so often that I was just listening for those just perfect sounds, and in unison. And then over time I started, actually listening to what they were saying, just not, instead of just listening to the notes,
Yeah.
and so that's, first and foremost, it was Sonic, and yeah, now it's grown into just that the storytelling is fantastic, and just trying to encapsulate that is quite a feat.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Well, how does that work in today's kind of ecosystem for music, where people are listening to maybe 10 seconds of a song on a streaming service and then skipping it? Like if you're saying something very poignant or deep or emotional, or or telling a story in a song, do you worry about people maybe they're not going to listen to that, or they're going to just gloss over? Like how important is that aspect of it to the kind of presentation of the music that you're putting out in the world?
Not at all. I basically I'm pretty much in this for me
Yeah.
and the guys, and then if anyone happens to like it, that's fantastic. But but yeah, the last thing on my mind is trying to figure out an algorithm, or trying to cram the most important part of a song is the first 10 seconds to catch anyone's attention.
Yeah.
I'd like to build the whole idea and make it do what it does.
Okay. Okay. That's kind of refreshing, because I think a lot of people are, regardless of what style of music they're playing, they are considering that pretty heavily, right? And it's
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
because that's just how the weird way that things are in this future dystopia we all live in.
Yeah.
But it's nice to hear that that you're doing it, because you want to do it rather than trying to market it. And but I got that being said, that is like a huge part of being a musician now. Is not even like it was even 10 years ago. You have to be your own publicist, and you got to be marketing yourself, and you got to be on social media and all that stuff. What has that kind of transition been like for you, as someone who's been playing for a long time, to sort of now
Uh,
be in this brave new world?
Yeah, pretty terrible. It's tough for me to really push on that kind of stuff. I'm not good at it, and frankly, I don't really care.
Yeah.
And I mean, I totally understand that that is the way it's shifting and the way it's got to go, and I'm sure. The other thing is we haven't put much new out, so there's not really much pushing we need to do outside of saying when our shows are and
Yeah.
whatnot. And
Yeah. You
even
get the
then,
same record since for
yeah,
7 years or whatever.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and even then, like most people who know where we play, are gonna know that we're there anyways. So I think that once we start doing something new, I'm probably gonna have to get my ass in gear and start paying attention a little more.
Yeah, yeah. Well, are you comfortable, and I guess the rest of the band too, if you just basically played the time change from now until eternity, would that be, and you continue writing songs together and releasing things periodically, would that be would you be happy with that situation, or are you hoping to kind of take this further?
You know what? I'm certainly comfortable with that. I don't know about the rest of the guys, but
Yeah,
for me, for sure. Like, I mean, obviously, I would like it to, go further, but I certainly don't want to have any expectations because, the last thing I got into this for was any sort of cash or money or,
Yeah,
grandiosity. I just wanted to play a song and somehow someone wanted to listen to it, and right on, I'll take it wherever I can get it and as far as it'll bring me.
cool. Where can people hear your stuff now? What's the best way to sort of track down what you have out there in the world already and what's coming up?
Sure. We've got the Honeysliders have their EP, Head Back Home, on Spotify. Also, in Jivetown, we've got a bunch of tunes on Spotify as well. That's sort of a mix. We go back and forth, changing lead singers between me and my co-singer, co-band member Gary Gatch. He does a
Okay.
couple of the tunes as well, and yeah, that's about it for CDs right now. Also, well, you can find us on the Times Changed album too. I believe you can pick that up online.
Yeah, I think it's on Bandcamp and stuff as well. Eh?
Yeah, and in July let me just check the old calendar here. I've been getting it's been so nice getting calls asking for gigs again. It's
yeah.
refreshing. Feels like the good old days again. We are playing on the 30th and the 16th of July at the Blue Note Cafe as the Honeysliders. Tickets for that are on Eventbrite. They just went up today.
Yeah, I think I saw that. I was looking at the lineup. They got some good shows booked there.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
pretty
JD
nice.
has already sold out all three of his.
Wow. Well, people are so hungry to see any kind of live music, right? So being able to do that and see that whole scene of local artists and outdoors where you don't have to worry as much about the COVID stuff happening, right? Like it's kind of nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. We got into the beer can twice last year. First time we got in after not playing, I remember someone was off the side of the stage and just like, wow, you guys, that was a little intense. The first time up there, we're just just screaming and thrashing up there. Yeah, can't wait to get back at it.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, I'm sure that'll be a great way to see a show, especially after so long without being able to see anything. So
and they redid it since last year too. They got it all revamped in there, so I'm excited to check it out.
For sure. And then is there the good thing about this being a podcast is someone could listen to it right when it comes out, or they could listen to it 2 years down the line. So or whenever. Right? So what's the best way to sort of keep up with what you're up to, regardless of when someone tunes into this episode?
Yeah, you can check us out on Instagram, the Honeysliders, and also at Jivetown, and same thing with Facebook. We'll keep that updated with shows and whatnot, and I'm sure once we start getting songs out there, we'll be putting that all over.
Awesome. Well, I'll look forward to hearing more of those because I really dig that Honeysliders EP. It's I wasn't even sure actually until recently if you were still actively a band, just because COVID's put a wrench in figuring anything out. Absolutely. But I was looking at the CD the other day. I was like, oh, this is old. Where's the follow up? Right? Yeah, but no, glad to hear.
Every time someone new listens to it, and then they see what yours, it was like, yeah. Let's not talk about that.
Yeah. They must be defunct. They must have broke up a long time ago. Yeah. Right on.